Hey friends, how are you? Welcome to my channel. I'm Nicole and this is Crimes with Cole. So hello. How are you guys doing today? I hope you all are having an amazing day. I have such a fascinating case for you today. In today's case, we will be talking about the Gibbon sisters. And I don't know if you have ever heard of this case. You may have. And if you have, you'll have to let me know what you think. These sisters are twins and bring a whole new meaning to twin telepathy. I find this case fascinating because, fun fact, I myself am a twin, and twin telepathy is absolutely a true thing, at least for me in my case. I'm an identical twin. Now, as I started to look more and more into this case, I just could not believe the level of extremity that these girls reached, becoming almost reliant on one another, if you want to use that word. Now, these two girls, like most identical twins, formed their own, little twin language at a young age. Rather than that being a temporary thing and them growing out of it as they got older, they continued to have this twin language all of their lives. I mean, rejecting communication from everyone around them, including their own parents and siblings. Their antisocial behaviors eventually led to the twins indulging in a crime spree lifestyle. Now, let's just get into this case, but before we do, you'll have to let me know, do you think twin telepathy is a real thing? Let me know. Let's get into the Gibbon girls' case, better known as the Silent Twins. June and Jennifer Gibbons were born to their mother Gloria and their father Audrey. Now, Audrey and Gloria had met when they were 20 and 19. They had both been working at the CL airport. She was a telephone operator and he was employed as a meteorologist. Audrey attended a private college on scholarship. He was a very bright student with dreams of becoming a doctor or lawyer one day. His home life was miserable though, as his father and his mother fought constantly, resulting in the family splitting up and then getting back together, that back and forth type of lifestyle. When Aubrey was just 18, his mother was pregnant with her 7th child, but she ended up passing away while giving birth. And while Aubrey just happened to be away at school at that time, and he never forgave himself for not being there for his mother, but blamed his father even more for giving them such a miserable life with all of his just irrational behaviors and the constant fighting that they had been exposed to growing up. He ended up leaving school and he never finished, but instead had met Gloria and quickly fell deeply in love with her. The two married in 1955. Aubrey decided that he was going to create this new happy life that he never had when he had found out that they were going to have a baby boy. But that baby boy ended up dying shortly after birth, and the next year a miracle had happened and their baby girl named Greta was born. 2 years later, they had a son and named him David. Now the family packed up their bags and they moved to England in 1960. Aubrey had taken the entrance exam to join the Royal Air Force and was accepted, and soon worked his way up to becoming an air traffic controller. Gloria stayed home with the children, and in 1962, they got the surprise of a lifetime that they were not expecting and discovered that they were going to have twins. On April 11th, 1963, June Elise and Jennifer Lorraine were born. 7-year-old Greta and 4-year-old David were beside themselves. They were so happy and excited to finally get to meet their little baby twin sisters. However, Gloria always said that the girls were not identical twins, but fraternal, meaning that they were two eggs that both got fertilized, compared to identical twins where there's just one egg that gets fertilized and then it splits. And ironically, even though June was born first, Jennifer was the stronger of the two. She reached all of the milestones first. And if you know twins, or if you are kind of familiar with them, even though one will always be born a couple minutes early, it's usually that first one that will reach the milestones first. And then the second, baby B will reach it, whether it's 2 days later, 2 weeks later, 2 months later, they'll always end up reaching it second. So ironically, in this case, it was backwards. But Gloria said that the girls wanted to do everything together. They even wanted to eat at the same time and not wait for the other one to finish. The family had moved and located once more to Linton, located in Yorkshire. The girls were happy and loved playing with each other. However, they had developed speech, to talk much later on than what is considered normal. By the age of 3, they were barely speaking 1 or 2 words together. They would repeat 1 or 2 sounds to each other, they thought that they were words, but to everyone else, it was just sounds. But to them, they were actually talking. But it didn't really worry Gloria or Aubrey, because they knew that their little baby girls were going to reach their milestones and talking in no time. In 1967, when the twins were nearly 5, another daughter named Rosie was born to the Gibbon family. They loved their baby sister, and in fact, she was the only sibling that the girls really even paid attention to. But again, Gloria just figured that, they're twins. They had each other. Their sister was 7 years old when they were born, and their brother was 4 years old when they were born, and not really interested in the same stuff that girls was interested in, so she just kind of brushed it off. Now, with June and Jennifer entering school, the behavior of keeping to themselves at home carried over into their school life. At the end of their first year, the teacher noticed that the girls became extremely upset if they were separated at any time from one another throughout the day. As the years progressed, other teachers noticed that the girls would not speak to anyone except each other. And it was always quietly and quickly. They spoke very fast to one another to the point where no one could understand what was being said. And when the girls were asked in classroom activities, they would just stand staring at the floor, unresponsive, for minutes, even hours sometimes, until the teacher would finally just give up and leave them be. By the age of 8, their teachers and parents realized that there was a serious problem with the girls. They were able to read and write just fine, but their behavior is what was becoming a concern. However, based on school reports and their mother's opinion, the girls were simply just classified as shy. Now, when the twins were 8.5, the family once more moved due to their father being relocated for work. And while the girls' old classmates had become accustomed to their behavior and just, kind of ignored them for the most part and just, let them do what they were doing, the classmates at their new school did not. The girls were now doing everything in sync with one another. They moved in a slow motion-like way. While they walked, they sat down in a chair, they raised up from the chair, bent down to get something. They were almost like robots programmed to do everything at the exact same time. Like, it was wild. It was very bizarre. It was the most bizarre behavior that, people around them have ever been exposed to. The twins continued to only speak to one another in a low, quick-paced speech, making it difficult for anyone else to understand. And to top it all off, as if their antisocial behavior was not, enough to be teased about, the girls were the only black kids in their school, making racist comments a likely bullying technique on top of their strange behavior. The bullying became so bad that the girls were to leave school 5 minutes before school even let out, so that they had a head start to try to lessen like the other kids teasing them and harassing them. I mean, these poor girls, at this point, the girls had stopped speaking to everyone in their family except for their baby sister, Rosie. The 3 youngest girls shared a room together, and they all loved to play and laugh together. Aubrey's concern with his twin daughters grew, and he decided he was going to seek an expert's opinion on their strange behavior. The Gibbon family was transferred once again, as Aubrey was promoted at work, and they moved to Haverfordwest in West Wales. And this is where Aubrey consulted with Tim Thomas, an educational psychologist, asking for his opinion about the girls and seeking his advice about, where they should go to school. Because obviously their last school, they were extremely bullied at. He suggested that the girls had become too dependent on one another and should be separated in school. This way, they can, form their own relationships with other kids and start to become, their own person and not be so influenced by the other twin. I think if you are a twin, or if you're really close to twins, or you have twins, I think you know this feeling where your parents always refer to you as, the twins. And then that moment in life when you break from each other and you become your own independent person, it's kind of like that. Their dad is seeing that is what needs to happen now. Gloria was growing frustrated with the girls at home because while she was trying to conversate with them and get them to talk, they only would respond with a one-word answer. And then not speaking to their mother for the rest of the night. It was a one-time, one-word answer. That was once a day. That was it. At supper, the girls would come down, they would sit at the table and eat, but they would keep their eyes down, eating in silence, and their movements were synchronized with one another. And if anybody tried to speak to them at supper, they ignored them like they didn't hear them at all. When they left the dinner table, they got up slowly in sync with one another, took their plates to the sink while looking at the floor, and then they would slowly march off to their room again, still while looking at the floor. And this is all in sync with one another. I mean, every movement they did was in sync. Almost like they were counting, and they knew, because they weren't looking at each other, they weren't making eye contact, they weren't doing hand signals. It was wild. They somehow, some way, were able to stay in sync with one another at all times. I mean, every moment was in sync with one another. Gloria would hear excitement and laughter in the girls' bedroom, open the door, but the girls would freeze and go silent. And the moment the door shut, she would hear them, giggling and laughing again. And as the years went on, the girls did not speak to anyone except each other and occasionally Rosie. Their school performance was pretty decent, actually, and they didn't misbehave, so they were kind of left alone for the most part. I mean, they did their work, they got good grades, so they were just kind of, what more can you do at that point? They're not being bad, disobedient students. They did really well in English, history, and geography, but they did do poorly in math. Now, the girls' personalities were assessed, and it was said that June, the firstborn, was described as the most intelligent and likable of the two, but was found to be sadly lacking in self-confidence and sociability, while Jennifer was the more uncooperative of the two, but rated to have high leadership skills, which you will see that later on down the road in this story. And while they were being assessed, it was discovered that the two girls would give each other like a slight nonverbal cue, alerting the other one of how exactly to respond or move in a particular situation. So example is, one would have a slight eye roll and the other one knew that meant we have to cross our legs at this time. Her was the one who was mostly giving these cues. After the teachers and school officials made no progress with the girls' behavior, they called Gloria and Aubrey to a meeting, and per usual, Gloria just excused the girls' behavior as shy, and Aubrey agreed that there was no reason for the meeting due to the fact that the girls were behaving in school and that their schoolwork performance was acceptable. Neither parent said anything about the behavior of the two at home, so the headmaster just thought that the two girls were uncomfortable in school and super shy. Nothing else was said until a doctor came to administer routine vaccines at the school that year. And by this time, June and Jennifer are 14 years old. Dr. John Roos arrived in the fall of 1976 to get all of the students, one by one, a tuberculosis vaccine. And the vaccine was given in the upper arm. Now, when it was June and Jennifer's turn to get their vaccines, he noticed that there was no movement. No flinch, no nothing. It was almost like grabbing onto a corpse, like a corpse arm, to give an injection. It was just stiff and still. Because the vaccine, just like any shot, you're just kind of like, especially when you're younger. The girls both were completely expressionless in the process of receiving their vaccine. They almost resembled zombies, according to Dr. Roos. He decided to bring this encounter to the headmaster's attention because of just how bizarre these two girls' behaviors were. But the headmaster simply told him that, the girls were doing fine in their studies and completing their work, and although they did not interact with their teachers or other students, but rather kept to themselves, it just to let it all be. And that's just how that was. There was no further concern about the twins. But the doctor could not help but continue thinking about the twin girls and their bizarre behaviors. He had asked for permission to speak with the girls' parents. And when he met with Mr. and Mrs. Gibbons, he noticed they were very intelligent, alongside, caring and loving parents to the girls. The parents told the doctor how the girls did not speak to the family at home. But, they never caused trouble and were keeping up with their grades in school. But the doctor just couldn't understand why the girls' bizarre behaviors weren't more concerning to their parents. The doctor wrote in his report The present home situation is that the twins mix very little with the family, except at meals, preferring to go together to their bedroom where they will read and play. When the girls talk to each other, the parents can only recognize the occasional word but can make no sense of the conversation. Gloria did mention that their pediatrician suggested that the girls' speech problems may result from the girls being tongue-tied. The twins could not stick their tongues out past their lips, but the girls had been successfully breastfed when they were infants, which made the doctor kind of doubt that the girls were tongue-tied, because being tongue-tied makes it very difficult to breastfeed due to, the connective tissue on the tongue and being overgrown. He consulted with a child psychiatrist named Dr. Evan Davies. Dr. Davies felt they may be looking at a case of elective mutism, a rare condition where someone is able to speak but chooses not to. But he had never heard of this in twins, and he was intrigued. An appointment was set, and when the girls arrived to go through, the routine questioning, they never verbally answered, but would rather make slight nod or, lift their head to indicate a particular answer. Gloria, however, was just embarrassed at this point by the girls' silence behavior and jumped to elaborate answers for the girls. So, if they asked something, one of the twins would nod, Gloria would jump in and, finish speaking or kind of elaborate on what that was supposed to mean. Dr. Davies noted that the girls not only were not answering his questions, but did not move if he was paying attention to them. But the moment that he would turn his head back and his attention back on the twins, that is when they would become silent again. He concluded that the girls did indeed have an elective mutism and had a speech impediment, resulting in a speech delay when they were younger, and referred the girls to a speech therapist named Anne Trehorn. June and Jennifer started working with a speech therapist in early 1977. She had a little more luck getting the girls to answer verbally and discovered that the girls could, in fact, speak, but did not have a speech impediment that resulted in their speech to sound, with a thick S sounds, and spoke very rapidly, which made it difficult to understand them, alongside, with their West Indian accent. She also discovered that June was much more cooperative than Jennifer. June would answer an occasional yeah or no, but Jennifer would not. And while June would sometimes be eager to answer the questions, Jennifer's expression prevented her from doing so. Anne also felt Jennifer was the clear leader of the two, and June was possessed by her sister. The girls were sent to a surgeon to relieve their tongue tightness, but no one felt like it was necessary, and in fact it only improved their speech slightly. When school got the report about the girls' speech, they felt it was necessary that the girls be sent to a special educational school. The girls started attending their new school a week after their 14th birthday. It was over 8 miles from their home, and the head teacher, Kathy Arthur, would drive to pick up the girls at the bus stop that was a half mile from their home every morning. And every morning that Kathy arrived to the bus stop, she had to physically put the girls in the car. She would have to bend their arms and bend their legs and push their butts into the seats, physically had to put them in the car. I mean, the girls were as stiff as boards at the bus stop every morning, and every morning Kathy would have to go over and bend them and physically put them in the car. I mean, can you imagine having to do that? I think I would be okay with it for like a week. And then after that, I'd be like, come on. But she caught on very quickly that the two girls were giving nonverbal cues to the other one. But if one of the girls did not want to do something, then it was not being done. And neither girl was allowed to do something without the other one being on board with it. And it had to be done at the exact same time. Okay, that is all I have for right now on the Gibbon girls. You'll have to let me know if you think twin telepathy is real so far. Stay tuned. Part 2 will be out very, very soon. Let me know what you guys think until then. But until next time, please remember to be safe, and I will see you then. Bye.